Hello everyone. I am here to share with you what we're going to do in the Mixed Media Zine um, live event that's happening on Monday, August 23rd. So I'm just setting up everything on my laptop and my phone and making sure that those who have already bought access to the event, thank you so much for purchasing. The paid event is going to be so much fun. But I'm just testing out how things are going to work, and I'm dependent on Facebook to stream the video live. So hopefully there won't be any glitches. I will also be recording it on my laptop, so in case you have to step out or you see only parts of it or you're not able to actually attend the live on Monday, you will still have access. If you have purchased paid access to the event, you will still have access to replay the event at a later stage. So there were a lot of questions around what a zine is, and I did do a video which is on YouTube, and I will post a link here that you can review to see what a zine looks like, but we'll also kind of go through it right now. And also there were lots of questions about what specific supplies do you need for the event on Monday. So for this event on Monday and for any of my demos, if you've taken any demos from me before, attended any of them, you know that I don't have a list of specific supplies. And there's a reason for that. The reason is that I don't want you getting caught up in, oh, I don't have this, I need to buy this, will this be here on time, and getting all stressed out about any of that. Because really, anything I do, anything I share is to create less stress in your life, to take away stress from your life, not add to it. So my encouragement always is to use what you have. Use what you have at home. I will show you what I'll use for the most part because this is what I have at home. And I will answer any questions around modifications, about other supplies that you could use, and things like that. So let's see here if I can show you what my workstation looks like right now. Because my workstation is a big mess. It always is. It's so fun. Okay, so for my workstation, this is the paper that I'm recommending. This is Strathmore Bristol Smooth. It's a heavyweight paper, and I like this because I throw a ton of stuff onto this paper and it takes everything. It's really, really thick. It's kind of like cardstock. So if you don't have this specific paper and you have cardstock, that will work. If you'd like to use watercolor paper, that is usually very thick, that'll work. So it's up to you. This is the paper that I like to use for my zines. And you can see in this one how I used water reactive inks, and it took the water pretty well. I always spray water on liberally, and it took the water really well. There's no warping, there's no like coming through on the other side. So it's pretty thick paper. So if you have thick cardstock, that works as well. If you want to use watercolor paper and you know you'll be using water reactive inks or watercolors, definitely use watercolor paper. All we need to do is make sure that when we're folding, we really have a bone folder or something that you can press down hard with to be able to fold thick paper for your zine to work. So that's one thing that you do need to keep in mind. The thicker your paper, the harder it's going to be to fold. And it's not impossible, it's just going to take more time folding it because you want to fold it both ways because this is a reversible zine. So you want to be able to have the creases such a way that it folds both ways seamlessly without tearing. You see what I mean? So any kind of paper is good as long as it's thick. Not too thick though. You don't want to go like super crazy with like the Brutus Monroe, it's not your mama's cardstock kind of thick. You want to be able to fold it and press it and crease it. So that's as far as paper goes. I highly recommend thick cardstock size or cardstock thickness paper. My personal preference is Strathmore Bristol. That's what I use, and that's what you'll see me using in the demo. This is a 9 by 12 size, which is a good size for the zine because when it's ultimately folded up and everything, you'll see that this is the size you get. Right? So you can see on the palm of my hand how big it really is. Now, if I had a ruler, I would tell you how big it is. Let me grab a ruler so I can tell you. Okay, so we'll end up with a zine with the panels size being 4.5 by 3. So it's 4.5 by 3. If you use 9 by 12 paper, you'll get that size of a panel. So a 9 by 12 size is going to yield you something like this. You could also go smaller, but then you would have a smaller size. I'm still working on this one. I haven't completed it, but you'd get a smaller zine if you do that size. So you could also do like a zine that's this size, that's really tiny, so like a little journal. But this is a one-sided zine. So actually it could be double-sided too. It's like an accordion. So depending on what size paper you start out with is the size of the zine that you will get. So for a 9 by 12, you will get a 4.5 by 3 size panel. And how many panels will you have? You'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 panels on one side, and it'll be the same on the other side. And of course, as you saw, I used some of them as like a double spread. So it's up to you whether you want to do 2 as one or treat them as individual panels. Like over here on this side, these are all individual panels. So when you fold this side up, you get 8 panels that are completely different. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you're working on 16 panels basically that are 4.5 by 3 when you're using your 9 by 12 paper. And do let me know if you have any questions, because I'm happy to answer any questions that you have as I am demoing this, and also of course when we are doing the live event on Monday. So that's paper. All right, so there's another one that I'm working on right now in preparation for Monday. I don't know if I'll get this done by Monday because I went a completely different route in this. So this is again the 9 by 12. This is back and front, and I'm working on it. The reason this is taking too long is because I went a completely different route. I didn't do freehand stuff. This was mostly stencils and just freehand drawing of the faces. In this one, I used stamps, and I used really complicated stamps, and I'm trying to color them in individually on a dark background, which is why it's taking me forever, which is why you see all of this stuff on my table. So I don't want to get too lost in terms of supplies quite yet. So let me just go step by step. So paper 9 by 12. And then what are you going to do on the paper first? We're going to make the background first. A couple of ways to make the background. My favorite way is to use your brayer and a gel plate. Now, if you have a 10 by 12 gel plate from Jelly Arts, that is perfect, because then you can just press this sheet on and then pull it off. And that's how I created this background. This was on the gel plate, and it was basically 2 pulls with different colors and different mediums. When I say different mediums, I had used re-inkers, not distress ink re-inkers, but just regular re-inkers for stamp pads. And I had used acrylic paint on the gel plate and pulled this background. So you can use that. You can also, instead of using a brayer and a gel plate, you could also use just a plain old foam brush and some acrylics or some water reactive inks, or you could use a sponge and some of these water reactive inks, or where did that go? I can't find my sponge. There it is. It's so colored I couldn't recognize it. So you could use a sponge and you could just dab that in your paint, and you can see that's how I got these swishes over here. Or you always have your hands. So don't worry if you don't have a brayer, if you don't have a foam brush, if you don't have a sponge. If you have hands and if you have paint, we can work with that. So my idea is to show you one side one way and the other side another way, so you know how to make a nice colorful background with whatever you have, with whatever you prefer to use and whatever you have at home. Now, for what will you do after that's done? You'll also need a pair of scissors, and you will need a good bone folder. And I have the Teflon bone folder. I really like that. So if you don't have a bone folder, just make sure you have some kind of a steel ruler or something to press down with, so we get these nice creases. And this is the process that will take a bit of time. We're going to spend a good amount of time doing the creasing, so that we're going to keep doing it back and forth over and over until we have a proper system to fold these. and they will fold easily. I'd like to do that before we start decorating the zine and making the zine, because that step is critical. So once we get through that, then we start doing the panels. And at that point, you can either treat this sheet as one, or you can treat the different panels individually as you like. And at that point, it's where your creativity comes in play. So you can have a host of different ways of doing this. I don't have a theme. I am doing a poll right now asking if you know what theme you're going to be working with if you're going to be attending this session on Monday. If you have a plan, great. Take out your stencils based on what theme you're working with. I never have a plan. It's mostly in the moment. It's very organic. So I basically just pull out stencils willy-nilly, and most times you can see how these are all, they're not all just patterns. There's like some flowers, there's some birds. And the reason that happens is I will close my eyes. I have my stencils on a little thing that turns around, and I will spin that, and I will just take the stencils from it. So I'm trying to get my face in there so you're not just looking at the supplies. So I basically just pull out stencils. The reason I like doing that is because that forces me to use stencils I haven't used in a while. So I like this technique, close my eyes, just pull whatever, 3 or 4 or 5 stencils, and then just play with them. That's going to be my strategy. Now for how you apply things through stencils. So I will have texture pastes and things like white opaque flakes or glass bead gels or sand or whatever textures you have. You can use those. You can use your embellishment mousses. You can use glitter paste. You can use your blending brushes and just blend backgrounds with your blending brushes. You can use a stencil brush, and you can, use whatever medium you want. With acrylic paint, you can do that. So it's going to be totally up to you if you're using stencils and what your preferred way of using stencils is. So just use that. So stencils is one thing. The second thing is stamps. So if you want to use stamps, like I have over here, just know that if you're using stamps and you're planning on coloring them, we're not going to finish your zine in that one session that you have with me, because it's only an hour and a half. My goal is to get you started, to share some ideas and to share some techniques, and then have you maybe do 1 or 2 panels with me live, and then kind of go at it yourself. That's my goal, because I like to give these zines a lot of love. I know I won't be finishing mine. I know that already. It's rare that I'm able to start and finish a zine in an hour and a half, but I will get you started, and I will get you on your path so that you know what you're doing. And you can always touch base with me after, and we can chat in the group and see if you need any nudging along the way and whatnot. So we can go both ways. We can use stamps if that's what you're feeling in the moment, or that's what you're planning for. Use your stamps to stamp out some images on your zine, or you can do freehand sketching in the moment. It doesn't have to be faces. You could even be like sketching or doodling some flowers on paper and then collaging them on. You can also use just stencils, which is what I did on this side. This is mostly just stencils. And then I had some die cut pieces that I enhanced. So if you have a die cut machine and you want to do some therapeutic die cutting in advance of the class on Monday and have some die cuts on hand that you know you'll be using, do that. We can also just, doodle with a Sharpie, or we can doodle with our markers, or, Posca pens. Those are the acrylic markers, gel pens, Sharpies, Corin markers, which are your watercolor markers, crayons, colored pencils, water-soluble, whatever you have, whatever you feel like in the moment. And a lot of people, I encourage people to just kind of have things within arm's reach at your workstation. So don't worry too much about this is what I have to use, or this is specifically what I want to use, because that takes away from the organic nature of your creation. It's not going to be a creation in the moment. It's going to be a planned creation, which is going to look very different than if you were just in the moment and you were only using whatever was around you. My goal is for you to not get up for the hour and a half you're spending with me. I want you to use whatever's here. And if you forgot to bring something to your workstation that you thought you might want to use, that's fine. Let's just go with the flow. It encourages creativity, it challenges us, and it's all good. The other thing I like to infuse in my zines, as in my journaling, as in my tags, is a lot of scribbles. So I like to scribble. So if you have a pencil or a pen that you want to scribble with, do that, because I like to journal out my thoughts. And I think in this page, you can actually see how much journaling has happened. So this is like a compact journal. We're basically doing mini art journaling through these zines. So have something to scribble with and write things down in the moment. It's always nice to be able to do that. You don't have to have stamps to stamp out words. You don't have to have magazine pages that you cut out words from. You can just write your words. You don't need anything fancy. You can just write them down with a black or white pen or any other colored pen. I'm noticing as I'm showing you this that I had used some spray. I had used the distress spray on this. So if you have any of the sprays, get those, keep them on your table. You might want to use them. And if you're using a spray, get a splat box, or make sure you have some kind of a screen so the splatter doesn't get everywhere. Yeah, so what do I stamp with? I like to stamp with this ink. This is archival ink, the Hero Arts. Any ink will do. Sometimes I will stamp with this. Sometimes I will stamp with water reactive inks. It all depends on what I have handy and if I'm going to be using water and spreading things around, or if I want them to stay the way they are. So, I mean, really, there isn't a template. There isn't one way of doing this. You can also use your pan pastels. You can use the Jane Davenport pastels if you have those. You can use alcohol ink markers. You can use alcohol inks. It's do your thing. Don't get too caught up or too stressed about what you should use. There's nothing like what you should use when you're making any project with me. It's what you want to use in the moment, and just use that. And as questions arise, I'm happy to answer them. I hope this helps clarify some of my philosophy and my approach to doing any kind of art projects. It's more of, let's see what's, in the moment, how we're feeling. And I also don't choose my colors in advance. So I'm just going to be basically seeing what I gravitate toward the day off, that morning off, as I'm setting up the workstation. And that's what I'm going to be using. I cannot, if you're looking for how many kinds of acrylic paints or colors, I cannot give you a recommendation, because frankly, I don't have one. I'm just going to be very honest about this. I really want to, I know it's frustrating when I don't give people answers that are direct and that are like, here, do this, because it's hard. It's hard to figure those things out on your own. But that is where it becomes interesting and fun. So if you close your eyes, if you're really, really hard pressed on, I don't know which colors are going to go well together, I don't know if I'm going to end up with mud, I don't want to if you're getting caught up in all of that, take a deep breath, close your eyes, open your drawer or reach for the shelf where you have your colors, and just randomly use both hands to pick up 4 or 5. Done. Decision made. And always have a white and a black with you. So to neutralize things, because if you feel overwhelmed, or if you're feeling like, oh my goodness, where is this going? You can always cover things up. It's just paper at the end of the day, and we're here to have fun. So don't overthink it. Don't think at all, in fact. I really just want you to create with your heart, not with your brain, and just let your heart lead the way and your hands follow, because the best art you make is going to be the one in which you didn't think, in which you just went with your intuition and kind of leaned into the moment and just did what was meant to be without having the answers to why you were doing what you were doing. So I hope it's going to be fun. You will need scissors. That's one thing I forgot to mention, to make that little cut in the middle. And I think that covers it. If I missed anything and I remember it, I will add it to the notes. If I've completely skipped over something that you wanted an answer to and you still have a burning question, message me, send me a comment, write me an email. I'll find a way to get the answer to you. Okay? So I'm really excited about this event on Monday. It's going to be so fun. There are so many of you that are signed up. I think we have almost 50 people signed up for this session on Monday. So spread the word, share it with your friends, invite other people to come party with us. And if they're not able to join the live session, if you're not able to join the live session for any reason on Monday, and you have purchased access to it, you will still be able to watch the replay. If Facebook does something weird and you're not able to watch the replay, I am recording it on my laptop and I will upload the video file to a place where you can access it from. So I'm really, really excited, and this is going to be so fun. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you on Monday live again for this wonderful mixed media zine that we're going to make.